If you are someone that has read a few different copies of the English translation of the Holy Quran, the chances are that you have either come across or read a copy of the translation called Sahih International. What you and many others may not know is that this particular translation was done by Muslimas, not just any women, converted women who took a challenge that came by the will of Allah. Emily Assami, Mary Kennedy, and Amatullah Bantley are American women who converted to Islam at different times, and somehow, by the will of Allah, found themselves and became a group, one that would eventually author one of the most widely accepted translations of the Holy Quran. The conversion. For Emily Assami, she was born and raised in an atheist family in California, United States. Her father, who was a scientist, didn't believe in the existence of a God somewhere. However, Assami's interest in Islam was first piqued when her history teacher made a biased comparative presentation on religion. Islam being one of the religions in the presentation made Emily curious about how it was presented. She made attempts to get the real truth or a second opinion about Islam, Prophet Muhammad, and Allah, as shown in the presentation. To her disappointment, she didn't find any book written by a Muslim. Eventually, she found a copy of the Qur'an and became relieved. A delighted Emily read on and on. As she turned pages after page, verse after verse, and chapter after chapter, she became more captivated by the messages in it. Emily got married to an Arabian husband and moved to Damascus, Syria in the 1970s. Although she arrived in Damascus as an atheist, it didn't take long before she reverted to Islam. Emily found companionship in the Quran and started a course on language studies at Damascus University. Emily later converted to Islam and moved to Saudi Arabia in 1981. Mary Kennedy was born into a Christian family in Orlando, Florida, in the United States, and holds a degree in an English major. Growing up, Mary was the inquisitive type. She'd had a lot of inquiries about many things. She continued until she found Islam. Her conversion journey was made easier when her brother reverted to Islam. She followed in his footsteps later and converted to Islam too. Amatullah Bantley was born in a Catholic family in Rochester, Minnesota, United States. Amatullah started questioning her faith at a young age. She found the several rituals, practices, and teachings unsatisfying and promised herself she would seek liberation. Eventually, Amatullah had the opportunity to meet international students in college. She watched the Muslim students and how they conducted themselves and practiced the religion. She had initially promised herself that she wouldn't live her life the way after concluding that Muslim women had few rights in Islam. The general misconceptions about Islam didn't help either. However, she eventually learned about Islam and saw through the misconceptions. Amatullah then convinced herself that while Islam itself is pure, the people who practice it aren't, and so it was easy to use the actions of those who do it wrong to judge the religion in general. Amatullah reverted to Islam in 1986 and moved to Saudi Arabia in 1987. Meeting in Saudi Arabia. After moving to Saudi Arabia, Amatullah Bantley became a student under Emily Assami, taking lessons on the Quran. Emily already had a reputation of the way she interpreted the Quran and conducted her teachings. Bantley testified to this fact as they were about to embark on uncharted territory, more so in a foreign land. Mary Kennedy found the company of Amatullah Bantley and Emily Assami when she was looking for companionship after moving to Saudi Arabia. Meeting the two and becoming one of them was natural as they shared so many things in common. They were all from the US and all reverted to Islam. They were previously Catholics except for Emily, who was an atheist. Translation of the Holy Quran. In a story written by a US news tabloid Daily Beast, Sister Amatullah narrated the encounter that would turn them into authors and publishers. In 1989, a widowed friend to Sister Amatullah sought her help to ferry her late husband's manuscript to a publisher, and Sister Amatullah asked if she could read the manuscript and offer possible suggestions before it was published. The widow agreed, and Sister Amatullah went to work, bringing the expertise of Assami, who was already fluent in Arabic, and Kennedy with her English major. They were saddled with the responsibility of going back to the original Arabic to check for inconsistencies and also proofread and edit the English copy, respectively. The three ladies, through a combined effort, cleaned up the manuscript to a publishable condition. The publisher was happy with their efforts, and there they took up more responsibilities of working on other authors' work. This went on for years until it was time to take up an even bigger responsibility. Being a student under Assami, Bentley recognized her gift in interpreting the Quran and told their publisher. So it wasn't hard for her to believe they could do it when the publisher started suggesting Assami take on the project of translating the Holy Quran. Bentley put the suggestion to Assami, who firmly turned it down, saying she wasn't qualified. Eventually, after several persuasion, Assami agreed and went to work. Bentley and Kennedy supported her with editing and suggesting footnotes. After several months of work, the first edition of the English translation Qur'an by Sahih International was released. After several years of release, the Sahih International translation continually rose in popularity. It was even one of the official English translations of the Quran for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Aside from that, the translation enjoys institutional preferences as some important Islamic institutions use it as the preferred Quran English translation. In 2007, the owner of the publishing house retired, and Sister Amatullah bought the publishing house and the bookstore from him. The three women run them together. MashaAllah. May Allah accept their efforts.